Right, so muckers, here we are at last with my favourite tractor, and it is the Massey Ferguson 2720. Now, I dare say some of you are a bit surprised because you would have assumed that would have been the Ford 8210 or the David Brown 1690 or even the Renault 125/4. But it's not so much just about the tractor why this is my favourite. It's because it represents a time in my life that things were just good. So why, as I said, is the 2720 so special to me? Well, when I was driving my original 2720, I was working for a spreading contractor, and they ran 2640s, which was a smaller version. They had a 2720, which is the one I had, and a 2725, which was the later updated version of this, which basically is a few changes. They had two doors. This one's only got one on this side. They had two doors, and they also had the electronic hitch system, which was great and revolutionary at the time. These days, most of them are sort of fell apart, and because it was very early tractor electronics. This is just spools and up and down draft and position control. It's all conventional stuff. I used to drive a 2720 on the muck spreaders, and no different to this one really. Look, obviously very similar. Had the cast centers, and because some of these were available just normal steel rims, but these got the heavy cast centers front and rear. And we also had the tyres were ballasted, water ballasted, front and rear. Now you've got to remember, back then in the early 90s, the average size of a farm tractor was about 80 horsepower. And the main tractor on a farm was about 110. So having 150 horsepower, we were the boys when we turned up, That was quite a special thing. As I said, it was a big tractor back then. And the reason we needed the power and the weight is because we ran bunning spreaders, and they were on a bogie system, sort of twin axle bogie system. Not like the conventional spreaders you see now, muck spreaders with a large rear wheel right at the back, because that wheel is right at the back, the weight is always on the drawbar. With the bunning Highlanders, as I said, running on those bogie systems, as soon as the load moved down the bed towards the beaters at the back, got about halfway down, the weight tipped on the bogies and the weight came off the drawbar, and you were literally having a dead pull. So you needed the weight and you needed the power. The other thing is about it as well, people say, well, I was running those spreaders with 110, 120 horsepower. Yes, because you could go when you wanted, when the weather suited and the conditions were good. We were spreading for months throughout the year. So we had to go come rain or shine. We were in different terrains, different conditions. We needed to be able to go whenever. So that's why we had, as I said, big, heavy, powerful tractors of the day. Today, 150 horsepower is nothing. But as I said, back then it was a big tractor. And back then as well, I was 21. I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and nothing was going to stop me. If you sort of knew what was coming in later on in life, well, who knows? But anyway, as I said, it was a great time. Not everything was going well, and we all had our ups and downs, but it was just that good time. As I said, you're young, carefree. As I said, you had a big tractor in the day. Yeah, life was good. And that's why the 2720, I suppose, is my favourite tractor. As I said, it's not just the tractor. It's what it represents for me at that time of my life. 2720 was the largest in the range of conventional tractors for Massey Ferguson here in the UK. In the United States and Canada, there was actually a bigger one with a V8. But the 2720 had a 6-cylinder Perkins 6354, which was turboed and intercooled. And it gave 147 horsepower, as I said, so it's like in that 150 horsepower bracket. The later ones were the 5 series, so there's 2725, 2685 electronic. And all that meant was that the controls, the linkage controls, were a very early electronic system. So you could lift and lower the implement with a switch. Now, the reason that I wanted this actual tractor when I found it about 4 years ago is because of the overall condition. It's very, very good. By now, these tractors are, 40 years old. Tin work often suffers, but this one is very, very good, very original. You can see, the whole cab and the side panels. Mud guards, they're especially good because, again, these rot out quite badly normally, but they're lovely and solid. It was kept inside most of its life as well, which helps. Now, the other thing is that she's on the actual period tyres for that sort of point in time. So they're Goodyear radials on the front and Klebers on the back. And yeah, of course they're cracked. As we know, they were cracked while they were still in the rubber plant, But it just looks of that time. The thing is that most of these by now, they're on modern equivalents. So like, 620s or something like that on the rear now, rather than what they did come out of the factory on, which was like the 20.8s. But yeah, that sort of struck in my mind when I saw it, especially obviously the old Klebers. Now at the back is where the diesel tank is. It's a very sort of good place to have it. I know it's more convenient these days to have it down low by the step and all that, but your filler is up here and the tank is at the back, and obviously that's putting weight over the back axle, which is always an advantage to have. Right, let's go and have a look inside. So, as you can see, for the day, this is a big cab. Plus, you got a full opening door. Where back then, most tractors had a pillar here, and only this part was the door. Well, this one, as I said, is a full opening door like you get now on modern tractors. So that was, years ahead. So inside, you can see, the steering wheel moves in and out, up and down, So again, for the time, very, very good. But the main thing is that most people recognise in these Masseys was the gear shift on this side column. So you had your high range this side, low range that side, 1, 2, 3, 4. You had a forward and reverse shuttle here, manual shuttle. On the earlier ones, like the 26, 20s and 40s, they had a splitter, a high-low splitter between the gears, but that was on here, and you'd knock this lever up and down. Well, this one is on a button here. It's called the speed shift. You just literally pressed a button, and that was that. The nice thing about this being here was you didn't have sticks and that coming out of the floor, so you had plenty of room for your feet or your dinner bag. Manual spools. You got your draft and your position control here for lifting up your implements. PTO is here. As I said, on the later electronic 5 series, 2725s, etc. like that, they just had a round twist type knob thing that, altered all your position and draft, and just a switch to lift the implements out of the ground. The other weird thing about these, which I quite like, if I'm honest, is the position of the foot throttle. It's in the middle. Most tractors, obviously, here on the right-hand side. A lot of tractors back in that time actually still didn't have a foot throttle, but these did. It's in the middle, and as I said, when you're twisted round, looking behind, it's a nice place to actually have it. And when you're going up the road, you're sat there. Some people didn't like it. It's something that you get used to, like with everything. But yeah, as I said, for the time, they were a nice cab. You sort of sat down, you know, in it, plenty of room, as I said, for everything, and your grub bag, your feet, your dog, whatever you got in here, you know. But yeah, and the other thing about them is a lot of glass, again, for the time. You know, it's this big open window at the front without bars and that in it, which most tractors at that time had. This is all one big piece. Very, very modern if you look at it. And with the new 8S's that Massey Ferguson have got, the cab that they now have, they've even said, is a nod back to these 2000 series cabs. Just like that, I'm 21 again. Happy days. This is the soundtrack of my youth. And it's really nice to have that chance to listen to it again. Now, back in the early 90s, when I had the original 2720, and way before camera phones were a thing, somebody had the foresight to come along with a VHS camcorder and come and film us spreading. Now, the video I'm about to show you, I was able to get off the original VHS tape and put onto a memory stick. And it is video back of us in the 90s with the 2720, the 2725, and also the 1505 Arctic Massey. That had a big old Cat 3208 V8 in it. Sounded lovely. Anyway, enjoy. So this is my original 2720. I'd like to point out that I didn't fit the stainless pipe. I should also admit, though, I didn't ever remove it, because that did sound nice. I don't know why we had front mudguards fitted to that tractor, because even down the road it never went quick enough to fling any mud up. They were slow down the road. This is the 2725. Just listen to that Cat V8. And that's the Massey 1505 Arctic. You can hear that V8 in the background. Now this was a shot we did just for the camera. So we got the 2725, 2720 and the 1505 all coming up, sort of line abreast up the field, spreading together. As I say, it's just for the camera, but yeah, it was impressive. So, there we go, muckers. I hope you enjoyed that. It's been a while in the making, that's for sure, but I think it's been worth it, you know, worth the wait, and hopefully you now know why the 2720 is my favourite tractor. It's not just the tractor, it's what it represents as a part of the time of my life. Anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Do well.